Let's run through a simple example of fact table transform processing. We're going to start with an empty transform table. And let's put a batch of input into it. Let's look at the type view to see what it looks like. So we've got two sets of keys, A and B. This is all going to be new data because the transform table is empty. So let's run the transform proc passing in the input batch. Okay, it's finished. Let's look at the transform table after the update. So what we're looking at here is all of the source input going into the transform table because it was empty, and so of course all of the input is new and should go into the transform table. So the two sets of data have fingerprints and information in terms of the lineage of the data. Okay, now before we continue, I'm going to save off a temporary copy of the transform table after batch 1 was input. And now we're going to put in a second batch of input. Let's take a look at it. So we're going to be putting in some data that's the same for one of the business keys, but has some changes for the second business key. So let's run that transform proc with that second batch. Okay, that's done. So let's review the whole process, see if you can see what's changed. So first, let's look at the copy that we made of the transform table after the first batch of input. Okay, so here's what it looks like from test batch 1, and we can see got 3 rows for A, test 1, 2, 3, 2 rows for B, test 1, 2. So then we input test batch 2, which looked like this. So this looks the same, but we can see we've got some changes to the B business key. So let's look at the transform table now after batch 2 has been processed. And so what we can see here are a couple of things. First of all, just right off the bat, looking at the update date, you can see that there are two different times here. So the first set of rows for business key A had the same fingerprint calculated in the source input as what existed in the transform table. So there was no need to make an update, and the input was just ignored. So we still have the input from test batch 1 in the transform table. But for the second business key B, we did have some changes. So we've done some updates to the transform table. We killed everything for BBBB as of this 10/31 effective date and replaced it with the batch 2 input.